Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. How are you guys doing? Hi, Michelle. Scott and I'm super excited. We are going to be going and doing disc golf. My hands and stuff are still bothering me, but I suck at it anyway, so who cares? And about 11 o'clock today, we're having some people come. I'm actually really excited. One of the ladies from our book club, she comes down this way normally anyways once a year and visits and hangs out, and she's coming today to hang out with us, and I'm super duper excited because we're like 15 minutes from or 15 miles from the Canadian border. So good morning, Lynn. How are you doing? Leslie, GW, Melissa, good morning, everybody. Remember, if you have questions, throw them in the comments where you came and joined us. Scott is my moderator. I finally convinced him to be my moderator. So if you have questions for him, he's actually sitting behind me on his laptop doing whatever he's doing.
I'm in front of you because behind you I'd be like in the lamp.
Oh, well, I guess I'm saying behind because the laptop. He's behind my laptop. My bad. Morning, Clemmy. Open Mind, Noreen, Audrey. Okay, let's just go ahead and, I always forget this in the beginning. Don't forget, we have, for anybody in the area, we're doing our meetup on the 23rd. We're going to do paddleboarding, tubing at the lake, walking, biking if you want to at Lake Padda, and then we're going to do delicious barbecue afterwards. Okay, let's jump into the questions. Heather Hawkins, I hope you get over the flare-up soon. Do you think the oxalate dumping was triggering your symptoms? No. My issues currently, and it's been over a year since I've had a flare-up, which is nice, but it's made this time and just absolutely horrible. The day before, I was at my sister's all day trying to help her unwrap all the baby stuff and prep the baby room. And I was struggling just getting the saran wrap off the packages because the flare up's so bad. And even before, my hands and my wrists and stuff were my biggest impactor, but knees, hips, shoulders actually are really bad right now. Speaking of which, I need to take some leave this morning because that seems to be about the only thing that helps my pain that is not a narcotic medicine that I don't want to take. Anywho, so no, not oxalate dumping. Yes, could it have an impact? Possibly, but if most of you guys didn't know, I cleaned the roof, the moss off, which has mold, and I didn't think about it, and I was breathing that all the time. And I also pushed myself to literal physical failure that I was out there for 6 hours some days on my hands and knees crawling on the roof doing this. It wasn't a smart move of mine. How are you feeling with the medicine stuff? I am feeling, oh, thank you, honey. I am feeling much better. I'm going to take these real quick. I'm feeling much better on my 40 milligrams of the Prozac. And I mean much better. It's actually, it saddened me a little bit. I kind of let it go, and it's like the luggage. I pick it back up. That I've struggled the past 6 months with being consistent emotionally, mentally, and things like that. And I really can trace it back to the second I started messing with my antidepressant. My PCP didn't think it was a good idea. He was right. And Scott's pointing his finger over the laptop at his own head. Yeah. Okay. GW, what's the best trick you have to get back on track after a fail that is more than just doing it? Sugar is ruling my life. Most of you probably already know I've read Atomic Habits. There's another book, I can't reach it, called Tiny Habits. Honestly, if you haven't read Atomic Habits, go to the bookstore and start reading it. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with food per se, but the small habits. I used to just think that, oh yeah, it's okay if you think you can do it. Oh, thank you, honey. This book This is a new one I've been reading too. I used to just think, oh, if you can just jump into carnivore, do it if that's your personality. But the more and more I realize and look back on my past and the stumbles and stuff like that, no, it's actually a really bad idea. The only reason I was successful is because I had a huge epiphany. I had a pivotal moment of going to the hospital thinking I was going to die. That was able to have a large perspective shift. We can't create those for ourselves. They are usually externally driven and very, very rare in life. What actually creates change are tiny habit changes. So if you've fallen off, my strongest suggestion is pick up Atomic Habits. And if you've read Atomic Habits, go get this book and start reading it. Why? Because it literally gives you the temporary motivation to start making those tiny habit changes, because it hits the logic spot. Sometimes it's called a blind spot, that sometimes we're like, I know I should do this, but the book kind of cuts through that. Either one of them, honestly. And that is where I say start. Plus, it has nothing to do with food, but it will directly impact your eating. This is where I say start. Even if you read one chapter, do that, and I promise you'll be motivated to start making those tiny habit changes. Like, if sugar's ruling your life, do you have it in your house? And if so, go get it gone. Go throw it in the trash. Literally. If you were like me, you'd have to open up the cookie package and dump it directly in the trash can so you didn't eat it out of the package, okay? Start there. Don't try to do everything at once, because this is also why, I'm getting off on a slight tangent, but that's okay. This is also why it is so important that we focus on making small changes and not doing everything at once. How many diets have you done? I mean, I'm included in this. How many diets have you done that you just jumped on that bandwagon, lasted 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever, and then boom, you failed, fell off, done, gained everything back plus more? It is because we haven't focused on making those tiny little habits that are permanent changes, right? If you're building a house, it's one block at a time. You just don't snap your fingers and the house is built. Because if you do, then most of the time it's just going to fall down on your head. Tiny habit changes will make the permanent changes that we need. So I'll get off my soapbox about that. Wendell, if you keep having autoimmune flares, please look into Lyme disease. My mom has Lyme disease. I'm actually well versed in Lyme disease. And this is actually my first flare up being on carnivore, my only flare up from being on carnivore. Will you ever go full line diet? Ideally, at one point, I do want to try it. I did try it for a few weeks, and it was a big struggle for me because I like chicken, and lion diet's literally just ruminant animal, salt, water. Eventually, I do want to do a full, at least month of it. However, here's the thing. I want to focus on losing the last little bit of, I shouldn't say little bit, the last half of the weight I need to lose. And why strain and struggle doing something that I know is going to be hard right now, when if I just focus on doing carnivore, being as active as I can, things will happen. Hi, I got notification at noon. I have no control over any of that. I set up when it's going to be, and the computer system does all of it, but I'll have to look into that and see why it's doing what it's doing. Oh, Betsy, I can't remember if we talked about this. Have you read Tiny Habits? I'm super curious. This actually is pairing really nicely with Atomic Habits. Mama Cat. Oh, I'm super excited for you. It is an excellent book. Scott's been starting to read it and has really enjoyed it.
Atomic Habits or Tiny Habits?
Atomic Habits.
Yeah, I've been doing Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
Chapter 2 is pivotal.
It is. It is. Oops, sorry. Does flavored element affect your cravings? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I use the unflavored most of the time. If I feel like it's one of those days that I might be, so here's the thing. Doing carnivore removes carb and sugar cravings from the body. Like, my body no longer says, I want sugar and carbs, right? Because in the beginning, doing the standard American diet, I got it from the brain and the body, okay? Carnivore, ketovore, whatever you're doing, removes the physical cravings. However, if you are an emotional eater, a binge eater, it does not remove the mental cravings. They get less and less and less over time. And there have been plenty of people who said they don't experience them at all. I am just going to be blatantly honest. I still intermittently do have that. So if it's a day that I'm like, oh, I'm having a lot of stress, but looking back, this is only like a 6-month window, right? Because I've been messing with my antidepressants. I won't use the flavored element. All right, stab at hacking. I think you mentioned that at our last meetup. Read an evening, then okay to watch TV. Yes. Okay, let's dive into some more questions. Have you ever tried turmeric for pain? I don't really need it like I used to, but I like the flavor. I don't use turmeric too much to cook. My brother-in-law does all the time. I haven't used it for medicinal purposes, What else? I saw your video about your blood work. Have you thought about doing same for immunity, specifically vitamin C, D, CRP, iron panels? You must not have seen. I've done all of that blood work. I'm actually due in a few months, I believe, 3 months actually, to redo the autoimmune panels. But I just haven't got anything set up for that yet. Oh, Denise asked if my issue was because I was taking benzo. That is what happened to Jordan Peterson. No, I am not taking benzos. It is just straight up Prozac. Ingrid, can you suggest the best way to get started on carnivore books, food? Ingrid, I have on my YouTube channel, do you remember what it's called, Scott? Beginner's Guide to Carnivore, adjacent to that. Start with that video. As far as books, doing Atomic Habits is the #1 book I suggest reading, honestly, even if you're not doing carnivore, ketovore, whatever it is, because it will help you be successful along your journey, doing the tiny little changes, because we want this to be permanent, not temporary. That is where I suggest starting. As far as food, eat meat. Like, don't stress about things. Like, just eat meat and avoid processed foods. That's it.
One of the questions from that video is they're asking how long does we'll just word it as the carb cleansing. How long does that last?
Someone asked that?
Yeah.
Oh.
In the beginner's video.
Oh, it depends. Honey, can you open that shade?
Yep.
It just got real dark because the sun must have went behind some clouds. It depends, and I know a lot of people don't like this answer, but it's the honest answer. Right there's fine. It's the honest answer. It is going to depend on your physiology, your age, your gender, if you're type 2 diabetic, how, insulin resistant you are. You can be insulin resistant and not a type 2 diabetic, or most people are insulin resistant and pre-diabetic. It depends also if you're diabetic taking insulin, taking exogenous insulin, okay? Normal, healthy-ish person, 2 weeks, okay? Someone who is severely, and I mean severely insulin resistant, 4 to 6 to 2 months. I mean, it can be a long time, and your body's going to let you know, because you'll stop having those ups and downs. You can also, I have a keto blood ketone monitor that you can check your ketones too with that. But honestly, none of that really matters. You just eat meat, focus on moving as much as you can, like walking and things like that, and it will happen. There's no need to stress testing metrics unless that's your thing. Like, unless numbers and tracking things just gets you going, there is no need to do it. Jen, I totally fell off the wagon due to stress. My mother found out she has dementia. I just fell so hard to get back to just keto. I'm sorry, Jen. I will say, and because dementia is a very, very difficult thing in Alzheimer's, And I don't know if this is possible for you, but they have linked sugar and carb consumption to advancing dementia and things like that. Maybe you could make a focus on trying to switch her to keto if she doesn't, and it might help, and it might give you maybe a sense of you're doing something to help her. Just a suggestion, just, take, leave it. I don't know anything. Pursuit of bliss. Actually, I like how bliss is spelled. Any of us can get triggered and end up craving or wanting to return to what we used to for comfort. Yeah, there are plenty of people who are like, oh, I have zero cravings, which I'm really pleased for them. But the reality is us binge emotional eaters, most of us will still experience it because it is a long-term habit we've used to deal with emotions we don't want to feel, or the numbness or whatever. It's a little different. Hi, Liz. Question, not diet related, but pee related. Yesterday I was bending over and felt a pop in my buttocks. Today it's very sore there and down the back of my thigh. I would think that you could have, bending over, maybe your SI joint, you just leaning over, you could have the vertebrae, they shifted slightly and you felt the pop. There's a lot of nerve endings that run down through the low spine down into the legs, especially the sciatic. I would suggest the quick fix would be going and seeing a chiropractor, because if anything shifted, they'll be able to pop it back into place. So a quick chiropractic appointment should be able to help it. If it's going down the thigh, most likely it's affected your sciatic nerve, so it's going to be the lumbar area. It could be actually your pelvis, because see, our pelvis attaches to our sacral and lumbar area, and the sciatic nerve runs through the lumbar down through, it's called the piriformis area. That's a muscle. Getting too specific. Go see a chiropractor. They'll be able to get it back into place. Or you can just rest, use a heating pad for a few days and see if it kind of alleviates it. Sometimes our body will readjust the vertebrae back once we've kind of thrown them out of kilter, if you are good to it. Are you guys going to KPL, which is Ketapalooza, for those of you that didn't know? I was wanting to, but because of all the issues with the scammers scamming one of our business partners and them sending our clinician and our payment for services rendered to a scammer, we are not going to. I really wanted to, but that just kind of came out of the blue. And we're still having to deal with the company that got scammed, still not paying us, and we still have to pay our people. So, but I'm hoping as things settle down and that next year, I'm personally decided I am not going to be doing the cruise. The low carb cruise. Too much of a trigger for me, but I am the keto conference. I think I do definitely want to do that. Okay. I think in Atomic Habits, Clear says to focus on identity instead of outcomes. Do you have an identity that helps with consistency to carnivore? I don't tie my identity to carnivore, because here's the thing. That is what vegans do. Oh, Riro. She's on the ground. She's hurting. She get her medicine this morning? No. You want to go do that real quick for her? Give her.
Sure.
Sorry. I don't attach my identity to carnivore, specifically because that's what vegans do, and they become very dogmatic. And I have experienced dogmatic carnivores as well. I am healthy. I'm a healthy person, and would a healthy person do this? And my idea of healthy is, right, meat, and that's okay, but that is the identity I use. Because would a healthy person sit there and eat half a pint of ice cream, or a pint or a gallon, or, whatever? And the answer is no. April, I find that I'm eating more chicken than red meat just because that's what I'm craving. Do you think that'll affect me in the negative way? No. Ideally, chicken is not as nutrient dense as red meat, but as long as you're getting a decent amount, I wouldn't stress about it. That's worrying about the 2%, or whatever, 5%. If you're feeling good and you're doing well, I wouldn't stress about it at all.
Saturated fats.
Yeah. Christy, it's my birthday today. Happy birthday, Christy. It is September 10th. Mine's in 3 days. So happy September birthday to us. I'm staying on 0 carbs, yay. Go have yourself a birthday ribeye or lobster or something. Go do that. We're gonna do steak. There's a steak place down where my sister lives. We're gonna do that. And I'm going to treat myself and I'm going to have some collard greens. That's gonna be my birthday treat is I'm getting, because I love collard greens with bacon. I'm gonna have collard greens for my cake. So you do you, and I'm super duper proud. Naruto, although I love to eat bacon, I have lymphedema. It seems to do all right with everything else except for bacon. I use unsalted butter. What do you think about lymphedema and the carnivore diet? So you could be one of those people that is sensitive to sodium nitrates. I'm curious what kind of bacon you're using. I would suggest a trial of making your own bacon. You don't have to smoke it. You literally need pork belly. You need to buy the pink curing salts. I can't remember if it's type 1 or type 2. I have a video if you want to try this. And you literally cure it for 12, 14 days. Follow the video. This is all based on my terrible memory. And you can bake it to finish it off. I would be curious with that, how you do versus what bacon you're using. If you're using like the chemical laden bacon from just the grocery store, like just the packages, you could be reacting to some of the chemicals in that. Every single time I eat something that is chemical laden, I instantly have swelling in my joints and things like that. So I'd be curious if you want to comment, we can talk more about that. Lynn, is there a carnivore conference? I don't know of anything specific to just carnivore. It's more about the carnivore community getting together. If anybody knows, let me know. But I don't think I've ever heard of a specific carnivore conference. I am going to be a part of on the 16th. I think it's next Saturday. I am going to be part of the 24-hour live that Homestead How is doing. I will be there for only an hour. There's no way I could tolerate sitting even for 6 hours at a time. And I think I'll be there Saturday morning around 9 o'clock my time, which is Pacific. Thank you, honey. Pursuit of bliss. I love pork belly. I don't even bother curing it. I just put it in the oven after cutting strips and chunks and like it's crispy. I'm not a fan of just plain pork belly. But then again, I've lost my taste for bacon. So there's that. Scott loves bacon. And I could take or leave it, even though I eat it every single morning. Betsy, KetoCon has changed its name, Biohacker, something like that for 2024. That's good to know. I think they're trying to reach more of a diverse audience because sometimes when you say keto, people are like, it just depends. Oh, thanks, Jerry. There's been a carnivore conference in Denver. Don't know if it's every year. Okay. All right, let's pop back to questions. All right, Frankie, I lost about 90 pounds on carnivore. That's amazing. I was feeling so good. Started the gym, rocking 5 a.m. every single day. 5 a.m. is a little early for me. Went from 28 to 14. Now, the question is, why did I abandon ship? It's not carnivore. I've been off since Mother's Day. The reality is I need to be strict. This is what I had always thought. And I think personally for me, that is a terrible way to think of things because then I become the jailer to myself. I really, really, really push the idea of the tiny habit changes because then eventually you get to the point where, I just don't want that. I don't want that piece of cake. I don't want to eat bad because I know it's going to make me feel bad. Whoops. Hack your health, I think. Something like that. Okay. You know what's restrictive? Yes, not being able to wipe my own butt. That is, The sad thing is that is a reality of many, 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 many people's lives. Many. Every time I see someone that is obese, morbidly obese, it's just like, I know where you've been, and God, is that terrible, terrible. Let's see. Hibbit asks, thank goodness for Scott. Thank goodness for Scott. Does he work from home? Scott does work from home. So we are blessed in that way.
I work from anywhere. So I can run my business off my phone.
He's lucky.
Mostly I can run it off my phone. I have to do some other stuff that requires computer, but my phone is with me 24/7, and I work nights, weekends, whenever I get a message.
We literally, that's a trade-off, because someone's like, you are so lucky. I'm like, there is such benefits to having your own business, but the one thing is you work 7 days a week, and there is no turning off the work. If you get messaged at 8 o'clock at night, buddy, you either don't answer and stifle the growth of your business, or you answer so your clinicians can have patients.
I mean, I worked on the cruise.
Yeah, you did work on the cruise. Okay, I've lost 22.5 kilograms. Congrats, D. I'm starting to pick at things like once a day, like 2 chips. It doesn't send you into a binge. Is that bad? I don't know if I'd say bad, but I will warn you of the creep. What'll happen is 2 chips here, 2 chips there, a month down the road, now it's 5 chips, a month down the road, then it's half a bag, or, this is being slightly melodramatic. But if you can manage it, sure, but be really, and you can only answer this for yourself, be very honest with yourself, because it's called the creep for a reason. You just don't even realize it's happening. It's going so slow. Pay attention to that and just have an honest conversation with yourself.
Can I interject?
Yes, of course you can interject.
Can you hear me when I speak?
I don't know. Can you guys hear Scott when he speaks? Because he's sitting behind the microphone, not in front of it. So I'm not sure how that's working.
I'm speaking now. Well, what I want to add is that it's really important. This is one of the things that Amanda had to kind of really look at, is what is motivating her mentally. Is it mental hunger? Is it stress and desire to change the internal state? What's going on that's wanting to have the chip? Because if it's actual hunger, then that should be fed with, meat, fat, whatever that's appropriate. It's really looking what's behind the desire to eat the chips.
I mean, that's a good point, is why are you wanting those 2 chips? Is it the munchies? Is it just habitual because it's sitting on the counter? Because sometimes plates of cookies, chips in a bowl, just like seeing it, you may not even be hungry. It's just like an automatic function to go eat it because your brain sees it. So have those conversations. No one can answer that, and it's just being realistic with ourselves. She said, oh, great point. I forgot. You can read what people are saying. I don't have to read it to you anymore. Okay, Jess, do you know much about the dawn effect? Supposedly, my fasting blood sugar is 100, is too high right when I wake up. I'm 18 weeks prego and have gestational diabetes last pregnancy. When is the appropriate time to check fasting blood sugar? In the morning, it is. Now, here's the thing. The dawn effect will have it elevated. However, as your insulin sensitivity gets better, and I'm curious, you said your gestational diabetic last time, if they are considering you this time, or if you were type 2 before you got pregnant this time. Nuances, doesn't matter too much to this conversation, but the dawn effect will get better and better and better as your insulin sensitivity gets better, and as your A1C, because that's just your average glucose levels, come down. But the biggest thing is that insulin sensitivity, okay? That is pre-diabetic. You can be non-diabetic and be insulin resistant, all of this. Removing the carbs and giving your body time to adapt to a less bombarded system of sugar and carbs, it will come down. Now, pregnancy, you got a lot of hormones, you got a lot going on, so it usually will take longer. But here's the thing, 100, it is slightly up, but it's not sky high. It's not something I would suggest struggling, worrying about. As long as you are minimizing your sugar and carb intake during the pregnancy, things will get better. But at the same time, you are pregnant, so you do need a bit more resources and nutrients than someone like myself who's just trying to lose weight. Okay, 4, 8, 12, 16. Why can I not do pregnancy in weeks? I have to count it on my hands. So you're 4.5 weeks pregnant. Just eat meat, eat healthy. If you're doing ketovore, do what you need to do, and just, I wouldn't stress too much about it. But check it first thing in the morning, document it and record it, because you should see a trend coming down. And that's what matters, is the trend coming down, not up? In the end, that's really what matters. Okay. Chips equal salt rock. Yes. I can't reach it, but my salt rock is right around the corner. 1,800 calories of a small bag of Lay's cheddar chips, but that's all the junk I'm going to have for the day. So you're talking about them as I'm eating them. Yeah, Candace is right. The small, you have to know you. I cannot have, and I mean I cannot have more than 10 carbs a day. I mean, it could be like 9.7, but on average, 10 carbs a day, or it kicks me out of ketosis. Some people can have 30, some can have 50, some can have 20. You have to figure out what your range of tolerance of carbohydrates is. If you're doing more of like a ketovore kind of diet, this is all, like, I know a lot of people are like, tell me what to do, tell me what to eat. And it's like, everybody's different. And I know the simple answer is always the desired one, but it will not help you in the long term. The creep is very real. You got to pay attention to it. Hi, Karen. Can you comment on leg cramps at the beginning? Yes, leg cramps can happen from low sodium, low magnesium, low, not usually potassium, but it can be. And also it can happen from not enough water. Okay. Simple solution. Drink more water. Make sure you're getting enough salt. Start with those two first, and normally that will solve the issue. Because if you've gone from a standard American, highly processed diet, box foods, you were getting a ton of salt. Now, if you're not going to that and you're eating meats and vegetables, you are not getting nearly enough salt. Okay. That is usually the first steps of dealing with leg cramps, and then move on to, is it magnesium and potassium? Can you hand me the thing over there, please? I use, no, the other thing. Because he's got to read my brain. That's what husbands are good for. I use the
No, we're not actually good for reading your brain. We are not telepaths at all. In fact, we make a whole lot of wrong guesses all the time.
Well, he did start with this and then brought me this. So it was the second guess I got it. Anyways, the raw element, I like using this because it has sodium, magnesium, potassium in it. And I do at least half a pack. I've discovered lately, and this is Sherry's doing, is you just like put a little on your hand and you lick it like a pixie stick. Works really well if you don't like drinking it. The other thing is this is Redmond's Salt Rock. I love these. Y'all, for cravings, if you're not sure if you're hungry, literally, if you're like having craving, you're like, am I actually hungry? You suck on it a few times, it satiates the cravings almost instantaneously. Okay? Love these guys. You have to buy them off their website, though. You cannot get them anywhere else. And if you want the link, I think if you just go to the description, I have a link to Redmond's if anybody's interested in getting them. I will tell you, one bag will last you at least a year. Okay, it's not a big bag, but you don't like suck that much on these. All right.
Can I answer FR's question?
Sure.
What you say about lunch, treat a milkshake or something once a month. So one of the things that I'm really getting out of reading Atomic Habits, you want me to come around?
Yeah.
They said they can hear me.
It'll just make it better.
Okay. So one of the things I'm really getting out of Atomic Habits is being intentional with my habits and what I actually believe about myself and where I want to go in my life. And also like why I have the habits I have right now, like what I believed in the past. So I've actually started writing things down about who I am, what I believe, what do I want to believe. Am I a hard worker? Do I believe in people? Do I, all these various things? Because I have a long habit of playing video games, and that's not something I want to live the rest of my life. I actually want to be a dad and all these other things. So to answer your question about what does that have to do with a shake once a month? If your habits and your identity is that I'm a healthy person that eats carnivore, that has something that's a treat, then it's nothing. It doesn't affect you at all. If it's something that I'm a carb addict and I'm just letting myself have that one addiction a month, that's a totally different mindset and perspective. Because if you think of yourself as a healthy person that has good habits, you do have good habits, then having a treat once a month, it's not even a blip. You're like, oh, I want a shake. Cool, great. Next day, you're eating healthy. It's a really important thing to think about what your habits are and how you think of yourself, because they are what do you call it? They have a habit of reinforcing each other. You can have small bad habits that can develop into consistent bad habits.
The creep
that makes your identity change. Well, I'm a failure. I've been eating off carnivore for months. Versus if you have good habits, a little bit at a time, oh, I'm a healthy person that just had a shake. It's very interesting, the mindset about eating healthy and living long. I talk a lot, I know.
It's not just that. I have a slightly different perspective. And here's the thing. It's all about you and who you are, how you got where you got, and understanding that. I watched a video, and I can't remember her name. I'm real bad with names, y'all. And she's like, if you were building a house and you decided 10 days out of the year, you're just going to use the cheapest materials humanly possible and to save money, whatever the reason is. And then you got to the end of the year and the house was built. Would you feel like that house was stable and secure? Let's say the plumbing and the electrical, and then the 2x4s and 2x6s and stuff you framed your house with were bought on the days that you bought cheap lumber. Would you feel safe in that house? Would you feel secure? And the answer is no. Now, I have a thing about scheduling off meals, because it's like to me, that's like living in a prison, that I have to wait until this time before I can do something. Versus life is life. And if you have something off, just accepting I have it off, but 98% or whatever, 90% of my diet is going to be keto, carnivore, low carb. And then if I have a one-off, it's a one-off. So I think maybe switching from I'm going to do this every month to if something happens, it happens. Like your birthday comes and you're just absolutely dying for a piece of cake. If you're going to do it, do it. Don't feel any shame or guilt. And just boom, next day, right back on. So I think that's just a bit of perspective change, because I do think that I've done that. I'm going to have these bad meals off meals or cheat meals once a week, once a month. And it always led to this like internal turmoil for me. And it's not a good thing. But I'm also going to not say that I'm never going to have a piece of cake for the rest of my life, because I'm realistic that I'm a human being. I will make mess ups, and sometime I will run into the most delicious looking cake that I'm going to want a piece of. So, all self-discovery. And I know that's sometimes not the answers people want, but I'm telling you, like the tell me what to do attitude, man, I've been there. It is not a great place to be, because then the minute someone stops telling you what to do, it's just like, I don't know what to do. And it's a whole mentality difference of giving someone a fish or teaching them how to fish. Because if you teach someone how to fish, they can feed themselves for the rest of their life, versus giving them a fish that's just for one meal.
Learning good habits and good self-reflection that's honest is teaching somebody how to fish.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw it, but Candace said, Scott's right. Scott is so right. I'm a carb addict with binge tendencies, so I have to be very careful. I'm not always good at it. And just acknowledge that you don't have to be perfect. This idea that we have to be perfect in our heads, like that has been drilled into us. I think also from society's view of fat people are worth less. Mm-hmm. And so we want to be this perfect being, but There is not one human on this planet, whether they want to think so or project to the world that they're perfect. They're not. There's no perfect anything. Now, that doesn't give us the license to just eat whatever and expect results, but understanding we're not going to be perfect. And when we trip, it's okay. Just get up, wipe the dust off, and keep moving. Hi, Kel. That cat, steampunk cat, is super duper cute. Hi, Bill. How are you doing? I heard that once you get sugar out of your system, then have some, it doesn't taste good. Yes, unless you keep eating it. The taste buds, things change. Once you get those sugar and carbs out, fat tastes better, meat tastes better. You can taste the chemicals, like if you've eaten unprocessed foods and things, and then you go back and try to eat a Kit Kat. This happened like 6 months ago or something. Whoa. Scott got a Kit Kat, and I took a bite of it, and I spit it out. It tasted like pure chemicals. Not what I remembered it to taste like. So these things happen. But if you eat past that and you keep eating and eating, then the sugar tasties come back, and, well, no bueno, right? So that is something to be aware of. And I also want to touch base on this. There are so many different people with so many different reasons doing carnivore. And it is very, very important to not judge ourselves based on someone else. There are so many times, and I more recently have fell prey to this without realizing about the antidepressants. There are so many things going on. We are multifaceted people, and our experiences are all different. If someone comes out and says, I've done carnivore for a year, I haven't cheated once, and I haven't had a single craving, that is amazing for them. I am not one of them, and I am not lesser of a person because I have struggled. They just have had different struggles than I have. And I know sometimes it's like, I want that, but that's not where we're at. And not judging ourselves based on that. It is something that I still have to remind myself frequently of, because I know I'm on this antidepressant kick, but y'all, it was super duper scary. And it's just, I'm gonna share it. Scott was driving, and the only thing that kept me from jumping out of the car was the fact that I didn't want to accidentally kill somebody else. That is what stopped me. Okay. And it was extremely scary, after the fact and things like that. So don't judge ourselves based on what other people think we should do, because honestly, they don't know. And that's what I always tell you. I don't know nothing. I'm just sharing where I'm at. Okay. Just do what is good for you. FR, I want to mention that I'm glad you made it through the past month. I pray you keep fighting and mentally get to a great place. I am well on that road. Turn your laptop to the puppies. Scott wants me to share this 1 second. Oh, and she's got hiccups too. Sadie does. How funny. You see her?
That's why I was trying to.
I don't know if any of you saw that.
Leonard dragging with the hiccups and leaning at the end, and he's just like, whatever.
They're super good sisters. You're super good sisters. Okay, let's see. We got some more questions. Shayna, have you ever tried dry brushing your body to help with lymphatic drainage? It might be something you could look into. I was surprised at how much fluid shift. I've done dry brushing on other people. The problem is my issue is I don't have swelling in my ankles and legs and stuff like I used to. This is tied up in the joints of inflammation. I'm not sure if dry brushings would help that because the inflammation is within the joints. But hey, I could try it and see how that goes. Let me get that out of my way. because I got tons of comments about, because like the 15 pounds of fluid, and it's still there. Like I can feel it in my face and stuff too. It's just going to have, when the flare up comes, it's just going to like kind of whoosh away as things calm down. Would love to go snuggle right in the middle of the puppies. I do, and they get really annoyed at me when I put my head between them. Would keeping carnivore be as easy without the community or comments like in a different world where there was only Dr. Barry's videos, but no one minded carnivore support? Two sides to that. If I was doing carnivore just as some of you are, just kind of off by myself, having that community, I think would be it's very important. Because then if you have questions, you can reach out, these kinds of things, you can get support when you need to. Doing carnivore as someone that does YouTube, it has its good and bad. I mean, everything does, right? The good is it is the support. I mean, I will be very honest. 99% of my support comes from my other half sitting in front of me, and then the doggos. I love and appreciate everybody's support, but my biggest motivator and support is sitting in front of me. You know, the negative comments and the being told what to do, that does get to me. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. You can ignore it, but then suddenly you just don't even realize the creep that comes in. But now that I've realized it's happened too, I think it is extremely important to actually just stand up and, I don't want to say correct behavior, but make some people try to explain to others the impact of just going and telling people what to do. I do think a lot of it comes out of people trying to sincerely help. But as I said, with the antidepressants, I've had thousands of comments saying, get off of them, get off of them, get off of them. But they're not there next to me when I get off of them and almost try to commit suicide. You know, it's very dangerous to try to tell people versus just making suggestions. That's my soapbox for today. We'll move to Karen. Working the next couple weeks to eliminate the sweet taste out of my mouth. Now, this is a challenge for this girl. Small, tiny habits change, and then eventually you won't even realize that you're not even getting it in you. So that's the amazing thing. I use dry brushing for my skin, that's for circulation, and massage. Yeah, I mean, it can be super helpful, especially for lymphedema people. Super duper helpful. Amelia, I love your name, by the way. Any tips for a total beginner? I just started carnivore a few days ago. Go watch on my channel the Carnivore Beginner's Guide. There's a lot of tips in there. Two things. This is the wrong book. Where is the book? It's right. You're sitting on it.
Using it as a laptop.
Sorry.
That went totally wrong.
The world just fell apart on us. Thank you, honey.
Oh, that did not work.
Okay, the two things I suggest for a beginner. Get this book and start reading it. Thank you, honey. Get this book and start reading it immediately, okay? Even if you read a chapter a day, because I don't remember how many chapters. There's quite a few, but they're not very long. Start this. Get this.
And link the beginner's video, too.
Oh, Scott did. Thank you, honey. The Salt Rock will help with cravings. Go to the description. There's a link. You can only buy this off Redmond's. They do not sell it on Amazon, because you can buy some of Redmond's salts on Amazon, but not the Salt Rock, Salt Crystal. I forgot what they call it. This guy will help with cravings when you need it. This guy will help with changing your perspective about doing things instantaneously and losing 100 pounds in a month. Not that that's what you're expecting, but I mean, we could all hope that, right? But this will help make things a permanent change in the video. So those are my three suggestions to start with. And then from there, be gracious with yourself. Okay. My son has HS, an autoimmune condition showing itself as boils in his diaper area, very painful. 2 weeks ago, I had virtually removed all cheese from him and no boils. Coincidence? I can tell you, I have had a few off carnivore meals. Every single time I do, I get a flare up of HS. HS, because I'm really bad at this one. It is hidradenitis suppurativa. It's a terrible pronunciation of it. It creates, they don't know why, it's an unknown, but it creates boils, usually the groin, under the breast for women, under the armpits. They're very, very, very painful, and sometimes they open up and turn into lesions or ulcers. Anytime, cheese doesn't do it for me, but that's actually good to know for him, like super good to know for him. Mine is any kind of chemical, like in food. I always have one pop up, and then they take forever. Oh, I just saw that bill. Bye, Bill. So I'm glad for him because they are super painful. Christina, how do you get back on track when you fell off? I was on for 6 months, pretty good, feeling great, then fell off a cliff. It feels like have a tough time getting back on track. Thanks. Start with the small stuff, the small habits that you can improve. My biggest suggestion to always start is go to your cabinets and get rid of those trigger foods. At least get them out of easy access, out of your house, okay? The other thing is, if you haven't, or even if you have, go back to start reading this.
Yeah, reread it.
I've on my second or third time now. I think I'm on my third time reading this. It gives us that perspective change that we've changed our perspective, but then things happen, creep happens, and then slowly our perspective kind of shifts back to where it was at. This will help reset it. Okay, even if you don't love reading books, I strongly suggest reading it versus an audio version of this, because I don't usually like writing in books. Is this mine or is this his?
There's only one copy. It's yours.
Oh, well, I guess I try not to write too much into books. There we go. But I'll highlight sections, or I'll put little asterisks to see the sections that I like. Start with this. I promise you'll start reading it, and then you're going to start feeling empowered, and then making the small changes that get you right back up. If it takes you another week or two to get back on the bicycle, who cares, right? Like it doesn't matter. Start with this. Get rid of the stuff out of your house. Scott raised his hand because he's going to say something.
The power of writing things down. Maybe you need to start a food journal for a week or two to see what you're actually consuming. Mm-hmm. If you're causing trigger foods. But the other part is writing down what is stressing you, what is causing that desire to have an internal change of state, the emotional change. What is going on emotionally, mentally, physically that you are not eating carnivore anymore. Yeah. And then with tiny habits start to kind of correct those.
Yeah. And the book Tiny Habits he wasn't talking about the book because he hasn't read that one yet. Because I can tell you at this point, once you get into ketosis, once you get rolling on carnivore, the physical desire for carbs does evaporate, but the mental does not. And please do not feel like a failure if you've read 1,000 comments or other people are like, oh, I don't ever crave carbs anymore, and yada, 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 yada. Do not feel like a failure if you're in the group that I'm in, because come join my group that I still do. But I can tell you, I only crave sugar or carbs when I'm having an emotional upset, when I'm super stressed out, or I'm anxious. I am trying to seek an internal state change, right? Amanda's anxious. She doesn't want to feel anxious anymore. Go have a piece of cake because that sugar will create some serotonin and some dopamine, and boom, I no longer anxious. Even though it temporarily lasts 5 minutes maximum, doesn't matter. Our bodies work on a functional what's happening in this moment step, okay? And I don't want anybody to feel shame. I know a lot of people who are like, I haven't done this or done that. They're not trying to shame people. We create the shame ourselves. But I don't want you to feel shame that if you're struggling, because I'm in that camp with you. I've experienced a lot of this, and it doesn't make us failures, okay? And also for my people who are not doing this for weight loss, And I just remember, was it 2 lives ago that, I can't remember her name. Imagine Amanda can't remember her name. She was feeling kind of like outside the community because it wasn't about weight loss. It was about like PCOS and things like that. You don't have to. Can have nothing to do with weight loss, and you are still part of this community. It's just a different battle. And I just happen to be battling weight, autoimmune, PCOS. It's just, I have the trifecta going on. And some people, it's not. Y'all, so just this community, at least here with me, is open to everybody. It's hard to get everything out of your house when you're the only one in your house who's trying carnivore. Can you get out your main triggers? And then the other stuff, can you put in cabinets that you don't have to go into? I mean, not all of this is ideal or optional if you're the one cooking. However, if you're also the one cooking, then consider slowly trading out bad foods for less bad foods to then other foods. And maybe your family doesn't need to do carnivore, maybe like keto or ketovore, and they wouldn't even notice as you slowly creep and change their diet. Ideas. Scott raised his hand again. Yes, Scott.
So this might be a bad idea, but I'm going to suggest it. How susceptible is your family to guilt trips?
Oh, don't.
If you love me,
no,
you would help,
no,
like, move things to different shelves. If
no,
you love me,
don't do that,
you
please.
would not tempt me.
That is a terrible idea. Do not use guilt trips. That's such a terrible suggestion, Scott. I love you, but that's a terrible.
My mom would do it.
Yes, your mom would do it, but please don't do that to people. That just makes them bitter. Dairy or no dairy during the first month. I think trying to do too many things at once, you might feel really restrictive or really restricted. Now, I wouldn't suggest having a block of cheese like I did that 1 month every day. That was not good for my digestive tract, by the way. I think dairy is good if you are not overusing it in the first month. It is more about getting on track, being consistent, and then worrying about pulling one or two things out here at a time. Okay? Don't fall prey to this carnivore purist ideology. Okay? Some people do great with asparagus or broccoli or Brussels sprouts, or there's ones like me that don't do well with much. Okay? So don't fall prey to that the best you can, because it's really hard when you have 80,000 people telling you. Family is so not willing to change their diet, so I'm the only one but determined. Yeah. Just move what you can to different shelves. If it's in the refrigerator, you have to cover it up with a hand towel or cabinets that you don't have to go into. And just remember, if you are the cook, you have more power than you think you do. Okay. Especially if you're the one that buys the groceries. Now, I'm not suggesting going from eating Kit Kats and donuts, like if that's their diet, to then only giving them celery sticks. That's not my suggestion. But for families that have a lot of junk food, is let certain things run out and don't replace them. Just slowly creep out the bad food. Because I promise you, when Scott, way back when we were doing gluten-free stuff, I would switch out things for like almond flour from regular flour. He would never know. He literally would never know unless I told him. He was like, oh, this has almond flour instead of regular flour. Do small little trade outs here and there. So, do what you can. If it's too stressful, move the stuff out of sight, out of mind. Scott's very funny. He thinks he is.
I'm hilarious.
Betsy, I ate cheese for a long time, but learned I can physically do better without cheese. And so in Betsy's case here, it took her a while to figure out that it didn't work, and that's okay. Get on track, get your feet underneath you before you worry about anything else. Sorry, I just thought that was funny. Scott thinks he's funny.
I want to share, for those that don't know. So last month we did no dairy for the two of us to test things out. And what I found out was that I have a lot of throat clearing whenever I have liquid dairy. I can have cheese, but like liquid dairy in my coffee, which I've had for decades, has and it's terrible. It's driven Amanda nuts for 10 years. And I don't have that anymore. It's really important to go through those processes to figure out what little details are important.
If I don't ever have to hear Scott clear his throat constantly, it will not be soon enough. Ever. Let's see. Coding and flow. I don't know if you mentioned in the video, but how long did it take you until you lost your carb junkie cravings? I want to say 3 or 4 weeks for the body to be like, I don't really care about that. And then at that point, it was just dealing with the ups and downs. I can say that my toddler is watching me and is trying to talk like you. Laugh out loud. She said, "I." That's so sweet. I can say that in the beginning, going carnivore with the antidepressant was like a double boon for me, because everything, like my stress was so much better controlled, like to the point where I'm just like, oh, the house is on fire, it's fine. I mean, it really wasn't, but I felt so much more calm about things. And I feel like going back to the dose I was, and then all of that, I'm kind of getting back that direction, which was extremely pleasant, of not constantly worrying about everything. That cough. Yeah, tell me about it. Like literally focusing on something and then hearing, and you're like, oh my God, am I going to have to do Heimlich on Scott? First time in my life, this is like off in the bushes. My mom, when she was visiting last time, I don't know what piece of meat she was eating. And I've had to do CPR training and stuff throughout the years. Anyways, never had to do Heimlich. I did have to Heimlich her because she was choking on a piece of meat. So. Oh, thank you, Lynette. I'm actually very excited about that next chapter for us as well. My sister is due in like 6 weeks, and just kind of seeing her go through this pregnancy, because my oldest sister, I was too young to really care about, stuff like that. I'm really excited about it too. And fingers crossed, next year we'll be ready to start having little ones. All right, last question, and then Scott and I are going to go walk the dogs before we go play Frisbee golf. Ron, that is a very good picture of you, Ron, by the way. Do you drink coffee on your plan? I'm thinking when I go full carnivore, it'll be a challenge, but I got by the first week of 4 days carnivore 3 keto September challenge. It's empty, but oh no, I drink coffee. I drink 1 cup a day. Scott drinks like 50. His blood is coffee. If you want to do pure carnivore, coffee technically isn't, but if it's going to keep you on the straight and narrow, and you enjoy it, and you don't have, you don't feel bad from it, I see zero harm in it. Because I drink tea, like herbal tea, every once in a while, coffee, water, the sparkling water, and those are kind of what I take in. If it's going to keep you on the straight and narrow and you don't have any negative side effects or minimal, it's worth keeping in your diet. So, people will have different opinions, but that's my opinion, is you got to decide what's right for you. Do not let someone else's, like a carnivore purist opinion, that you have to get rid of every single thing because coffee is a plant. I mean, it is. You do you. I drink it. Scott drinks it. Quite a few people drink it. Yeah, Amelia says I can't give up my black coffee. There's no struggle. Nisha, my brain. Nisha and Dr. Berry did a while without black coffee, and Nisha discovered that it didn't bother her at all, and she went back to drinking it. I think Dr. Berry is still doing, I don't know if he's still on half decaf or he's doing full decaf. I can't remember now, but figure it out for yourself, and don't feel any shame if you like it and you keep it in your diet, because I'm going to. I have my coffee, heavy cream, and monk fruit, and it's been working about 4 cups a day on a bad day. 4 cups a day sounds like Scott. Anywho, I appreciate you guys. I am going to keep the consistency of posting Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays, doing the lives on Sunday. And yeah, Scott and I are going to go walk the doggos. Have a wonderful Sunday. I appreciate all of you so very much. And I will talk to you again next Sunday. Have a good weekend. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.